Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this update on the headquarters programme. I'm Clive Hickman, President of the institution, and I'm joined by on the panel by Alice Bunn, the IMechE Chief Executive, Chris O'Boyle, who is the headquarters Sponsors Board Chairman, Chair of Council Ben Vallely, and Andrew Skinner, who is a member of CLC and then the representative on the HQ program board. And the reason that Andrew is with us today is because Ben needs to leave at around 1:30. And so when Ben goes, any questions that need to go in his direction, Andrew will pick up. A quick housekeeping note. This session is being recorded for the benefit of those who are unable to attend live, and the recordings will be made available online via my account, HQ Program. Alison, Ben, and I recently sent you an email regarding the change to the HQ Program process, and Chris is going to take you through a short presentation to explain that change in further detail. If you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A function, and you'll find a Q&A icon in the navigation bar at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We will come to all of the questions after we've finished the presentation, and my intention is that we will continue this webinar until all questions have been answered. We also have the opportunity, I believe, for people to raise a hand if they have a question, and I'll explain that more after Chris's presentation. So I'd like to pass over to Chris O'Boyle to take us through his presentation.
Thank you, Clive, and good day to everyone, wherever you are in the world. I've got 3 slides literally to take you through where we've come from, why we're making the change, and trying to give you an idea of the reasons behind why that change is made. So, Sienna, if I could have the first slide, please. So we're going to run through a very simple update on the reasons. I've got 3 slides to take you through that, and then we'll have a series of questions and answers. And this is the second webinar, and I'm pleased to say the questions went on for quite a long time this morning, earlier on, and we answered every single one. So we're here to answer your and respond to your observations. So next slide, please. So let's just refresh ourselves where we've come from. The sponsor board is the current iteration of the groups that have looked at what to do with our headquarters building. We were established by the trustee board on the 26th of July and supported by a council recommendation in June of that year, last year. We went about onboarding our development manager and the external advisors through the latter part of the autumn last year, and we wrote our strategic outline case, which was approved by the trustee board in November of last year. We then went to prepare a first member briefing pack, which was delivered with council's recommendations for acceptance as well, just before Christmas, and that was circulated to all members, some by post, those who don't provide us with the email addresses, but those that do, they received it by email. And we carried out a series of webinars, and a first member vote opened on the 27th of January and closed on the 10th of February. That took 52 days from when we started. That's the sort of process time it takes. And to get from starting the process, briefing people, posting it, giving the necessary time allowed in the bylaws till we get the vote open and the results through. We got 7,853 members voted out of the 65,000 or thereabouts that were eligible to vote. That's 82.8% in favour of the resolution, and you gave us approval to market the headquarters building to establish the market value. We have not proceeded to market the headquarters building as we've got new information that's recently come to light. So that's the rationale for why we're holding these seminars, to explain to you the reasons why there is a change in the process. Next slide, please, Sienna. So there are a number of reasons that we've decided to defer the decision on our headquarters, as we've been subsequently advised that to get the best possible outcome for our institution, we should adopt the following approach. This is based on very recent advice received during the member vote process as it was open. And the advice really boiled down into 5 categories, actually. We should not go to the market until we can provide certainty to the market and that the process is secure and worth their investment in establishing the due diligence and understanding the opportunities that may be presented to them if indeed we decide to adopt that approach. And that therefore generates the maximum market interest. We also should go to the market with one option, because again, that provides certainty and achieves the best outcome. And certainty will provide the best response, and that's what the marketing advice is leading us towards. We feel comfortable with that advice because the advice we've received from our commercial evaluation agents has basically validated the previous advice we'd received and correlates very closely with it. So we're comfortable that we have it's been able to establish accurately the market comparables, both in terms of rental income, both in terms of values, and both in terms of costs of carrying out any works. So we've used that data in our modelling, which is from our market advisors and correlates with previous advice we've received. And this therefore means that we're able to get charity certification, which is what the trustees need to achieve, such that we get the best outcome for our institution. Let's remember, sponsor board is made up of a team effort. It's representative of all the different organisations and groups within the institution. It goes and coordinates through finance board, audit and risk, strategy, council, CLC, and trustees. And therefore, it's a team effort in terms of speaking with one voice to get the best outcome for our institution. Next slide, please, if I may, Sienna. And the next slide is a very simple slide. We want to brief you fully on the options as we're going through that process. We haven't made the decision yet. We're in the process of finalising the options selections, and we intend to hold a series of webinars following this one and following the consultations internally with the governance committees, trustee board, once we've selected a preferred option. And we will not engage with the market until and unless you agree. And that is after the second vote. So we're still honouring the commitment for 2 votes. We have not marketed the building so far, and we'll only market it with your support and recommendations from colleagues internally. So we're working collaboratively. We're working together and we're speaking with one voice, although I didn't do very well on the collaboratively aspect. But anyway, my point is it's a team effort, and everyone's contributing to make sure that we come to the right decision, which we haven't made yet, but we're about to start that process of selecting. So passing back to you then, Clive, if I may, and Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that colleagues have during this Q&A session.
Thanks, Chris. So we will now take members' questions. Please, if you would, type your question into the Q&A function. Alternatively, you can raise your hand. I won't see you raise your hand, but I believe that the backroom team will point that out to me, and then the events team will unmute your microphone. This may take a few seconds, and in the interest of time, please can you keep your questions succinct and relevant to the content of today's discussion. There will be further webinars and communication regarding the future stages of the process. So the key thing for me is that this is the first of a series of webinars, not the end of the road. And what we need to do is make sure that everybody is aware of the process. You're all aware of the options that are available, and that we're able together to work through to the best option for the institution. So over to the questions. And the first one is from an anonymous attendee. In light of the recent poll asking for donations and upfront payment of future membership fees, can you provide some detail on where the cash drain is within the IMechE's operations that is unable to operate sustainably? Well, I'd like to answer that one. The institution is able to operate sustainably, and we are operating sustainably. The idea of the poll for donations and upfront future member fees is to be able to generate funding that we can invest in the headquarters building. Now, the reason for that is that we have had underinvestment in the headquarters building for the last 40 years. And we're now at a point where we do need to make a significant investment if we're able to retain all of the buildings. So that's why we asked for that poll. The second question is from Christopher Hurst. An email has recently been sent asking about additional member funding. Please explain the background for that. And I think that's exactly the answer that I've just given, Christopher. I hope that satisfies you on that one. The next question is from Chris George. With such a poor response from the first questionnaire, what is the minimum percentage of all members to agree such a fundamental decision? Well, the minimum percentage of numbers is 67% of the voting population. So depending on how many people vote, we have to get 67%. On the first vote, we had 82%. Now, the minimum to be quorate is 50 people. So if only 50 vote and they give a 67% majority, that would be a viable voting decision. Certainly, we don't want that. We want more people to vote. And so we would look to you for your help with your contacts and your groups to persuade people that it's really important to vote. This is a really important decision for our institution. The next question is from Kevin Blacktop. So if we have guide price information for all the options, are we going to be presented with fully costed options? And I'm going to pass that question to Chris O'Boyle.
Unfortunately, we've had some leakage of information from previous information behind the membership paywall to the market, and we've had that's resulted in quite a lot of people responding, seeking opportunities to work with us to redevelop the headquarters. So it's really vital that we maintain commercial and confidence information. So what we're going to do is it's a balance. We're going to provide you with as much information that we can, but that's not commercially sensitive. And we'll do that by probably looking at relative bar charts, pie charts, other pictorial means of representing the options, because it's not just about financial information. This is also about the qualitative and subjective aspects, and they've been scored equally as importantly as the financial models, so that they come together and pick up as I said, those subjective comments. Things like heritage and location and status, image, brand, which might not have a financial connotation, but definitely have an important role to play in our institution. And they come together to create a series of options. Each option's been modelled based on those market comparators that we've received. They've been tested. We've done sensitivities. We've looked at values. We've looked at leasehold. We've looked at freehold. We've looked at rental incomes. We've looked at comparables. We looked at present values and future values. And we're working towards bringing forward a range of options for internal colleagues to evaluate and work with us to get the preferred outcome. We will share that with you, and we'll explain to you the stages of how we've selected that. But obviously, it will be with an element of not redaction, but more the removal of financial scales. You'll still be able to see the merits, but you won't be able to see the values, because we don't want to undermine our commercial negotiations in the market if indeed that is the preferred outcome. Clive, back to you.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is from Mark Willis. When is the next vote? So, Mark, we don't have a fixed date for the next vote. We are going to go through a series of webinars with you over the course of the next couple of months. We expect to be at a point where we may be ready for a vote before the summer recess, maybe in early June, but we're not putting a date against that says this is a cast in stone. We want to make sure that we get this right rather than do it fast. The next question is from Michael Berry. Not up to speed with why change? Is the current situation loss-making or not? The current situation is not loss-making, but if we want to invest sufficient to bring our buildings up to the current standards that we need, then we need to spend a lot more money than we're able to at the moment. And I'd like Alice to talk about that as well, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to build on your response, Clive, because I wanted to be clear with the membership that this change is not at all related to any sudden dramatic change in the financial situation of the institution. The change that we're talking about is simply a change in the process that we are adopting in order to arrive at our preferred option. So previously, we had assumed that it would be the best path to take a number of options to the market to test them in order to be able to derive our preferred option. That doesn't assume that selling any part of the building would be part of that preferred option. It was purely as an input to decision making. We'd already been advised last year by a different set of advisors that this might not be the best approach to the market, but in parallel to that, we had a separate set of advice on our process. Advice on how we should be taking new members through the process, which did suggest that it would be beneficial to go with more than one option. Since then, we've had further advice from our latest property advisors, which is really rather firm on the fact that we should only go to the market if that is part of our preferred option. We should only go to the market with a single preferred option for the reasons that Chris outlined in his presentation. So the change is around how we derive our preferred option. It does not signify any dramatic change in the financial situation of the institution.
Thanks, Alice. Next question is from Jill Stewart. While we go through this process, is any work being done on the building to prevent it getting worse? And the answer to that is yes. Every year we spend between 1 million and 2 million on maintenance work on the building. And we do that, unfortunately, in a reactive way rather than a proactive way. We want to get to a position where we can get this get the building sorted and start to move in a much more proactive maintenance way, in a preventative rather than reactive route. I have an anonymous attendee. Would it not be better to rent a portion of the building out to gain income for the institution? Well, we already do that, and I'm going to give Alice the floor to explain what we do.
Well, so what we do already is we have a venue room hire business that rents out rooms for events, but we also have a number of tenants within the institution. And indeed, the opportunity to do more of that is part of a number of the options that are currently being analysed at the moment. And
it's also fair to say that the building is not really in a position where we can rent it out at best market values, and it's not attractive to many people at the moment. If we could improve the building considerably, then it becomes much more attractive, particularly getting the energy efficiency ratings sorted. The next question is from Chris Antrim. Sorry, I put this in the chat initially. For such a major issue, is an 8% response representative of the membership? Once it's gone, it's gone. I think many of us in the LU TFL were saddened by the disposal of our 55 Broadway HQ, and I think we would be equally sad if Birdcage Walk was also disposed of without full representation of all members. Well, Chris, we want more members to vote. In fact, it was 12%, not 8% that voted, but that's still a very, very low percentage of the people who are allowed to vote. We need to get the message out as wide as we can, and we need your help, because the more people that vote, the better chance we have of having a result that satisfies the majority of us. The next question is from John Whiting. How has 2.5 months been lost with the new information when we were presented with a clear vote option to make progress? There is a credibility gap here. And I'm going to pass that back to Alice and to Chris to respond to, please.
Yeah, thanks, Clive. I mean, the short answer is we spent quite some time testing that new information. So there was two pieces of new information, if you like. One was for the very hard now advice from the property advisors that we should only go to the market if indeed we go to the market with one option, and Chris outlined the reasons for that all around certainty, but we also had some new independent market comparable data which was very consistent with the previous data that we'd received. So we spent some time, as you would expect, going around that, doing the due diligence around that, making sure that indeed the advice was firm, the conclusion it was. And we have been preparing this series of webinars. As soon as new information like this emerges, we will make sure that we are as transparent as we can be with the membership on that. Chris also mentioned in his presentation that we're very keen that we're working together. So we had to make sure that all parts of the organisation internally were comfortable with this change in approach. So as you would expect, taking advice from our governance committees, but also from Council and CLC. I'll hand over to Chris if you'd like to add anything else at all, Chris.
The only thing I'd like to add, Alice, is that we also took legal advice to establish that we could change the timing, and the lawyers confirmed that. And we also took legal advice on the definition of best value, so that we were clear in terms of where we when we look at options, how we evaluate them. And it's not just about financial value. The lawyers have confirmed that we're able to take into account the softer, subjective, qualitative aspects in that decision, and that we actually get they called it the best terms for the institution. So there's a nuance there, which is quite important, because it does mean that the trustees, when they come to the final recommendation on the way forward, they've got a legal framework to operate within, and that the lawyers will be able to certify that we've acted in accordance with the Charity Act and got the best terms for the institution. Back to you, Clive.
and I can understand how you as members are frustrated by this and angry. I can assure you that the trustee board and the HQ program board and the executive are just as frustrated and angry about this as everyone else. So I'd just like to reassure you this isn't something that has been taken lightly to move to this point. The next question is Toby Johnson. How does this change in process impact a robust optioneering and option selecting process? My understanding was that going to the market was required to understand the market value, which would enable us to have a robust business case for each option. How will the value of the property be evaluated in the options appraisal? Chris.
Thank you, Clive. We basically have got external advisors, both in terms of international status advisors. Cushman & Wakefield are our commercial valuers. ACOM are our quantity surveyors. We've got engineers, building surveyors, structural engineers, planners, architects, heritage consultants, transport consultants, you name it. We've had them because we want to make sure that the decision we take is robust and is based on best market advice. We've got Gardner Theobald who are pulling together our business case, and that's their remit. Their remit stops at FBC, and we then have a clear route if we want to change approach. The options within the business case are following the government gateway approach, which is UK Treasury Green Book, and we have followed that with independent governance through gateway reviewers. We've had 2 gateway reviews already, and the third one is scheduled for the 28th of April. One was before the outline business case. One was before the strategic business case. Second one was before the outline business case, and the third one is scheduled once we've got to a point where it's appropriate to have them before we get to deciding on the final option. So that's the timeline. We have had market input, latest market input, comparables. So all the options have benefited from that. They've been treated equally. They've been overlaid with the MFA scoring such that we've got a robust business case, and we're going through the final selections of risk, deliverability, and affordability. And that's really where we're at now. And so we, in the plan is to take that through the governance committees in the next couple of weeks, and to trustee board, so that they and share it with CLC, so that everyone can feel comfortable and support the shortlisting and hopefully preferred option. Not made yet, still work in progress, but we're moving towards an outcome very shortly. Pass back to you, Clive.
Thank you, Chris. The next question is from an anonymous attendee. I think it's one we've already answered. Based on only 8% of eligible members voting, what approach will IMechE apply to ensure as much as eligible members voting and also involved with the webinar series? I do think we've answered that already, so I'm going to move on to Phil Smith. You talk about wanting the best outcome for the institution. What is the best outcome, and how is that being determined and evaluated? So, Phil, we've got lots of different people have got different opinions on what is the best outcome for the institution. We don't know that. We have to try to come to a consensus. It's Chris's point that says we're trying to work together on this. We want to come together with one voice. We want to try to work through the options so that all of us, including the membership, are happy that we're getting to the right option for us as an institution. And that's why we want to go through a series of seminars with you all and webinars, so that all of you get the opportunity to see the approach that we're taking. You can see any options that are being eliminated and why we would eliminate them, and have the chance to interject during the question and answers if you think other things need to be taken into consideration. Chris, you want to add to that?
Just to further clarify that, Clive, as well, we included within this strategic outline case the critical success factors that we were seeking to achieve. We included that in the members' briefing pack before Christmas. So if you access that, you'll be able to see those critical success factors. There's 7 of them, and each time the gateway reviewers have come in, they've tested us against those to make sure that we are addressing them, and we are. And that will be the measure, one measure of the outcome of our preferred option. Does it best fit our critical success factors? Does it deliver against them? And are we happy that that is the right solution and the best way to go forward? So that is the measure that we will use to help us in the process of getting the right outcome, both financially and qualitatively. Clive.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is from Kieran Platts. Does the request/poll for extra funds not make the assumption that we're staying in number 1, number 3 Birdcage Walk? And I think, Kieran, the answer to that is no, it doesn't make that assumption. What it does for us is it gives us a sense of being able to input any data we get from the poll into the options, which helps us to look at the various scenarios and look at some of the scenario planning around each option. That then gives us a better insight when we come to make a decision. It also actually gives us strength of feeling of how strong the membership feel about staying in the building. The next question is from Ryan Brown. Thanks for the presentation. What are all of the key available options, including alternatives to sale of HQ, leasing portions of the building, or member donations? So Ryan, that's why we're having this series of webinars. This first one was really to explain why the process has changed, and then over the course of the next 2 months, we're going to hold a series of webinars where we'll present all of the available options and the alternatives to a sale, and we'll work through that together to get to the right solution. And we'll show you how we make that approach as we own down to that single option. The next question is from Ian McConnell. Why doesn't the institution take the bold action for the future of the IMechE and sell Birdcage Walk and relocate to a cheaper part of the country? If necessary, a small office could be maintained in London. The IMechE sets an example here. Ian, that's one of the options that we're looking at. I don't think the IMechE is a good example, because if you talk to members of the IMechE, as I do, they wish they'd never have sold their building in London.
Yeah, so there is that one. There is the one point, Clive, that every institution has their own sort of viewpoint on what they need to do for their members. Some take decisions with member advice, some take decisions with member consultation, some do not. And there's no right answer, so to speak, for us. We can't just map what somebody else has done and expect it to work for us. We have to work out what the right answer is for ourselves, which is not the easiest of things, as we're seeing. So yeah, it's just comparison is always sort of what we're used to doing. It doesn't always work, and this is one of those situations where, as much as other institutions have gone down certain routes, there are 38 professional engineering institutions that all have a different viewpoint on what is best.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. The next question is from Simon McClellan. Has the institution had an external approach about the HQ building or part thereof? Is there already a market interest prior to marketing? Chris?
The answer is yes. As I mentioned in my presentation about the commerciality, there have been a number of expressions of interest from organisations, usually wanting to try and get an inside track. We've just parked them. We've not. We've said thank you for your interest. We'll get back to you should we decide that that's the right approach, and not really done anything more with that. So the answer is yes, we have, but we're parked it currently. Clive.
Thank you. Kevin Blacktop, perhaps perhaps frame this in terms of affordability. And affordability is certainly one of the items on the list of things that we're looking at, and one of the reasons why we're looking at whether we can raise funding through other sources. You saw the email that I sent out about donations and upfront member payments. We're also looking to the lottery funding to see if we can get lottery funding, and we're also looking at other options such as sponsorship of rooms, so the room naming opportunities, to try and make sure that we have got something that's affordable.
Clive, can I just
Alice?
can I just add to that, because I think it's really important to emphasise that we do not have a preferred option at this stage. So what we're doing in order to arrive at a preferred option, in the simplest of terms, is to look at reducing risk in all of these areas, reducing uncertainty in all of these areas. So we're working with external experts to get a really clear understanding of what refurbishment costs would look like if that is something that is part of our preferred option. We're talking today about the change in process that we're undertaking in order to understand market values, if going to the market is part of our preferred option. And indeed, we're looking to understand whether or not fundraising would be part of any preferred option. So I would frame it as more about trying to reduce these uncertainties in the simplest terms in order to make sure that we take the best decision on the preferred option.
Thank you, Alice. Then from John Butler, we do not need the amount of space we currently occupy. Would we be able to put only number 3 and Old Queen Street in the market if we receive sufficient to refurbish number 1? Then that is the route. If not, we must go to putting the full properties on the market. And John, that's one of the options that we're looking at. You know, do we retain number 1 and sell Old Queen Street and number 3? We haven't come to a conclusion yet, but it's there as one of the options that we're looking at. The next question is from Alan Broomhead. Presumably, advice on how to proceed was sought and taken before the member vote. So why has the process now changed? Is there more recent advice seen to be more relevant? And I'm going to turn to Alice for that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Clive, and thank you, Alan, for the question, because this is exactly the purpose of these webinars, to address this process change. Indeed, we did previously had advice. We had advice from a different set of property advisors last summer who indicated that it might not be in our best interest to go to the market with more than one option. Of course, last summer, we weren't at the point of going to the market or testing the values that we might get at market in any way. We were much earlier on in the process. Also, towards the end of last year, we were getting advice from Concerto, our external consultants that have been providing advice on the process. And at that time, they were recommending that we go with more than one option in order to fully test options. Now we've got some new property advisors. Their advice is consistent with the advice that was indicated last summer. But of course, once we had your approval, it was important that we really tested that advice. We are breaking new ground. We're going into new territory. And as Chris has already indicated, we did provide quite a lot of challenge back to the suggestion that we could only take one option to the market, but we tested that and also tested it with lawyers. And we now, with some reluctance, conclude that in order to act in the best interests of the institution, it really is necessary to only go out with one option. If I may, I would just pick up as well on the previous comment posted by put by John Butler, because there is a further complication here. I think John suggests that, you know, one option could be to put number 3 and 8 to 12 Queen Street on the market, and if a sufficient receipt wasn't received, then we would be obliged to put the whole HQ on the market. These are theoretical situations. We haven't determined a preferred option. However, our strongest piece of advice from the property advisors is that we mustn't go back to the market twice in swift succession, because all of the market confidence would be completely undermined. I don't know if, Chris, you want to elaborate on that point.
No, you're absolutely right. That they've said that categorically you can only go once to the market. Otherwise, the market will lose confidence and not respond. So we can only go once. You have to leave a long period of time if you have to go back to the market, because that and explain why you might want to change it. But the advice we got was specifically go once to the market with certainty, provide them certainty, and you'll get the best response, best appetite, best outcome for the institution. Clive, back to you.
The next question is from Peter Morrison. He says, the original purpose of going to the market, as I recall, was to have an understanding of feasibility and market commercial data in order to be able to select the best option. How will the decision now be made without assurance of feasibility, best commercial outcome, and without that data? And I'm going to pass that to Chris.
We've got, as I say, the comfort that we've got a strategic property advisor, a development manager, and a business planning expert who are all remunerated without any recognition for a sale. So they are our advisors. There's no incentive for them to advise one way or the other. They're giving us the best advice. We have a commercial agent, Cushman & Wakefield. They are incentivized to sell the property, but only if the members and the trustees agree that that is the right outcome. Otherwise, they're not remunerated for any sale, and it won't go ahead. So that's absolutely the first fundamental point. Secondly, we have tested the outcomes from our modelling, and remarkably, they're virtually the same as previous 3 working groups, and they've been done independently. The market values and costings have been updated, the surveys have been completed, and they validate, frankly, the previous working groups. So we are now in a position where the comfort, and we'll share this with you in due course. We've got fairly similar shortlist to previous outcomes, and our job now is to ensure that we take the members with us, we take the governance committees with us, and get the trustees board support to implement whatever that is decided to be the best option. Because 15 years at this, and the building really hasn't had any investment, and it really needs it. We've got structural surveys in, and there's work that needs to be done quite quickly. So the time is now, and it goes back to the point that Clive made right at the beginning. We need to ensure that the members really do engage and vote as they see fit for our preferred outcome, because the time is right now, and we can't really delay any longer. Back to you, Clive.
Thank you. What is the expected timeline for this vote? When will the further information be available, short of the commercial sensitive information? That's an anonymous attendee. So the vote we hope sometime in June, but over the course of the next 2 months, we're going to be having a series of webinars where we will give you this further information and take you through the process of how we're shortlisting down to the single option. Another anonymous, oh no, it's not, it's Andrew King. And Andrew, possibly going back a bit to the beginning, but is this forward voting on marketing option, the repair or retention of the building is no longer an option? No, that's not the case, Andrew. We're not talking about an option to go to the market. We're talking about all of the options that are on the table. So retention of the building is still one of the options that's on the table. It has not been excluded from our discussions. So the next question is Aaron Edgecrumble. The reason to go to the market for valuation was suggested in allowing understanding the preferred option to move forward. What has changed and how can we proceed without this confidence in the valuation of the building? It's very similar to an earlier question, but I am going to ask Chris to again explain.
So, as I previously mentioned, we've had recent commercial advice from the property market that they basically we should go to the members before engaging with the market. That's to provide certainty. It's to deliver the best confidence for buyers to invest, potential buyers or partners in the offering. They'll have to invest significant sums of money in terms of due diligence and legal structures. We've tested it from all sorts of angles, and the valuations are very comparable to previous valuations that Alice mentioned we'd had previously from our previous agents. So the comfort we've got is that they all align and that they are in line with the market, and they're from international experts who are putting their professional indemnity cover behind their advice. And they are directly appointed by the institution, and they owe us a duty of care. Clive.
Yes. So the other point that I'd make there is that we will use those valuations, but we will also look at scenario analysis where we'll say take 70% of that value or 130% of that value and see what that does to the various scenarios in terms of looking at the option positioning. The next question from Trevor Bean. What is the latest point in the proposed voting process to change our minds, or is there no opportunity to retreat back to the beginning and reevaluate? So basically, we have retreated back to the beginning to reevaluate. We've got the 16 or 17 options on the table, and we're going through each one of them again. So we come down to one final option that we will bring to the members for a vote, and we'll take you through that process with us through a series of seminars. We have no predefined outcome from this. We have our own views what we would like, but we have no predefined outcome, and it's important that we try to bring everybody along with us on this vote, because it is a really vital vote for the future of our institution. From Simon Glover, please clarify what the second vote is for, just to market the building or to sell it if an offer is good enough. Now, when we come to the second vote is not about marketing the building or selling it. The second vote is about the preferred option that we've come to say, this is the preferred option. Do you support their option or you don't support their option? It may well be that one of those options is to sell all or part of the building. That preferred option could be sell all or part of the building. It may not be. It may be something else completely, is to refurbish what we already have. What we don't want to do is try to preempt that decision. What we want to do is take you through the process with us, because we haven't decided. We haven't decided what we think is the best option to present to the membership. And the next point from Christopher Francis: is there a point of no return within the process? That's an interesting question. I think I'm going to throw that to Alice, because you've heard me talking enough for a few minutes.
There's certainly not a point of no return. Again, at the moment, we're just at the point of trying to determine the preferred option. As Clive has just said, if indeed that preferred option involves some sort of a sale, and we have reasonable confidence that a sufficient receipt will be achieved, then we would go to market if that's the preferred option. But obviously this isn't a fire sale. You know, we're not going to sell at any costs. So but what I would say is, at that point, it will be very ill-advised to go back to the market should that be deemed necessary in any short time frame.
Thanks, Alice. The next is an anonymous attendee. 50 members is clearly not sufficient for such a significant decision. Would you give a commitment to a sensible percentage of membership for this vote, irrespective of the minimum from the bylaws? Alice, you first, and then I'll come in second.
Yeah, let me come in with a clarification, because this morning I was asked about the quorum number, and I said from memory it's 50. In fact, it's 40, so it's even lower. Which is indeed extraordinary for such a significant decision. However, we can't force members to vote. You know, we're all on the same team here. We are doing as much as we can to encourage members to vote, so we really get a true indication of where the majority view lies. But we would also appeal to you to talk to your networks, talk to your communities, encourage people to share their views, because I quite agree. We will be stronger the bigger the mandate we have. That said, there has to be a note of caution. You know, when it comes to things, other voting processes, other elections, we typically see turnouts of less than 10%. But we are absolutely striving to achieve a higher turnout than the 12% in the first vote.
And I'd like to sort of re-emphasize that point, is that we were very disappointed that only 12% of the membership voted, although we were happy that we had an 82% people in favour of what we'd said. We want more people to vote on this. We want people to be more engaged with this as we go forward. That's why these webinars are really so important. And Chris Ball and I have been, Chris O'Ball and myself have been talking about this very recently, that said, would it be good if we could get out to the individual regions and give a similar webinar to individual regions to try and get more people to vote? So we're going to take that away as a potential to see what we can do. But, you know, we can't change the bylaws. The bylaws are the bylaws. If people don't vote and we are quorate, then that is where we are. So please vote is what I would urge you to do. So the next person is Gabrielle, who says, okay, to not rush. However, do we have any hard deadline in front of us that the members need to be aware of? No, I don't think there's a hard deadline in front of us. We have sufficient funds to do the maintenance that's needed to preserve the building in its current state, if as it were. We don't have the funding to bring it back to the state that we want to bring it to for the future. So we don't have a hard deadline. We need to get the right decision for our institution going forward. Then from Aaron Edgecrum, the reason to go to market for valuation was suggested in the previous vote to be essential in allowing the understanding the preferred option to move forward. What has changed? Now can we proceed without this confidence in the valuation of the building? Aaron, I think we've answered that several times on this this Teams call already, Zoom call. The reason is that we have had further information from our consultants and our experts who are advising us that we should only go with one option, but we do have comparable market data from 2 or 3 different sources now, which gives us the confidence that we can proceed to look at the various options with a degree of confidence, but not confident enough that we won't do scenario analysis to make sure that if the building was twice as valuable or half as valuable, what would that do to the equation? The next one is from Patrick Knifton. What will the second vote choice be? It appears from Clive's briefing that there will only be one option to vote for, either yes or no. I lost 5 minutes due to drop connection, so I may have missed this. No, there will only be one option to vote for, Patrick, but we don't know what that option is yet because we haven't done sufficient work to get to that solution. And the next person, an anonymous attendee, given the time and money being spent on this process, have we ended up having to backtrack so dramatically on the members' vote? So, Chris, I'm going to come back to you on that one.
Yeah, as we explained, we got latest market advice. We took the commercial agents on just before Christmas. They started work after the Christmas break. And we got the advice literally over the when the first member vote was open. We responded to that advice. We tested it. We discussed it with our strategic property advisor, who corroborated that, and we tested the lawyers, and we tested it really for destruction. I even threatened to sack them, but they held firm. They said that if you wanted charity certification, they would only be able to do that if we adopted this route to secure the best outcome for the institution. So with that, we then set about looking at how that would work, and that's where we are now. And we've come up with colleagues with a process which takes you through why the change, then takes you through the option selection, and then takes you through the briefing before any second vote and why we're having that second vote. So it's a process to take you and bring you up to speed alongside of us, so that you're aware of why we're recommending a certain particular option, which we think is best for the institution. We've got Alice's raised a hand.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to be clear, it is a change in process. So we thought it was very important to provide these briefings, to be transparent about what we're doing. It is a change in the process to derive our preferred option, but it is not a change in any shape on the control that the members have here. It was always going to be the case that there would be work to be done to derive a preferred option, but members would have the final approval of that preferred option. So just to provide some reassurance around the extent of the change here.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. The members have the final say on all of this. We can only bring forward a recommendation. We can't bring forward a decision. The next question is from Tony Baloney. Have we looked at a possible collaboration with ICE, who have a building close by? Alice, would you like to respond to that?
So we've, as you imagine, I talked to many of our sister engineering institutions, and we collaborate across a number of different areas, not least on things like provision of policy advice to government. But we have not at this stage considered that we would have a full merge, if I can use that word. Of course, in the event of our preferred option being to vacate the building while a refurb program was going on, I imagine it would be quite likely we might want to share some space, for instance, even share some member space, for instance. But we have not looked into the possibility of, if I can put it like this, leaving our HQ entirely in order to move in with civils or any other institution.
Thanks, Alice. So the next question is from John Fogarty. Are you therefore intending to put a number of options to the membership to vote for which one goes to market, or will you put only one option to the membership? So I think it's repeating ourselves a little bit. We're only going to put one option to the membership, but we're going to work with the membership as we refine ourselves down to that one option, and that will be through a series of webinars. The next one is Gareth Thompson. Please, can you confirm why additional fundraising from members is needed? The 2023 account showed that the institution carried forward over £34 million. Alice?
So a large part of that funding will be in our restricted funds, so typically used for prizes and awards. Unfortunately, we do not have a level of funding within our free reserves that would be sufficient to refurb the whole building as it currently stands to the level that will be needed. If that were our preferred option, we would certainly be looking at a mortgage. And if we did need a mortgage, then we would, of course, have to come back to the members for approval for that too.
And if we can get funding from the members in support of this, then the size of a mortgage, if that was our option, would be less. Robert Cuthbertson, if the decision is to go to market, are we then obliged to follow through with this? Could there be yet another vote on the acceptability of the market response? Chris?
Unfortunately, the advice we've got is we have to give the market certainty. If they're going to invest and we're going to get competition, and competition drives values, then we need to give them certainty that they're not wasting their money, and that we are sincere about partnering with an organisation. So it's unlikely there would be a second vote. The whole idea of the advice that we've received is to give certainty to the market. The members have to vote up front so that the market can understand that we're serious about engaging with them. Clive.
Thanks, Chris. The next one is from Redphone Walker. I think we've already just commented on this. Have we considered joining forces with civil engineers in there or our building? And the answer was the one that Alice gave a couple of minutes ago. Terry Spall, thanks to everyone involved in progressing this important matter in such an open and professional manner. We are close to a presidential handover. Will Clive still maintain a leadership role alongside the incoming president in the HQ project to ensure no momentum is lost? Well, that isn't in my gift, Terry. That will be residing with the new incoming president on whether he wants me involved or whether he thinks he can do that on his own. So I'm afraid I don't have an answer to that for you. Maybe talk to the incoming president. The next question, has the ICE next door gone along with our present process? Their building is similar to ours. Chris, I think you know the background to that, don't you?
Probably Alice knows it a bit better, actually, because she liaises with the CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so they haven't gone through this process essentially because they have been putting aside both a maintenance fund and a sinking fund for long-term refurbishment projects in exactly the same way that we want to move to when we go through this current process. So they have a refurbishment program which extends some 25 years with periodic replacements of things like, you know, the windows, the glass dome I was admiring yesterday with their chief operating officer, which was their most recent major project as part of their refurbishment works. But they have a rolling program and they have a sinking fund with dedicated funding for that rolling program of refurbishment. Unfortunately, we have not been in that situation, which is why we need to do something to address that now.
Yeah.
So if I could just
our plan is to get a sinking fund as we move forward. We never want the institution to be into this situation again, and we want to write something into the bylaws that stop us ever getting into this position in the future.
If I can just input there, Clive, all the options look ahead 30 years, and they include OPEX, and they include a capital refresh at the end of that period. So there is a sinking fund assumption, and Finance Board have asked us to ensure that we have a sinking fund included so that it's exactly what you said. We don't fall into this situation again. And we're doing that. So the options that we bring forward will have that included.
Thanks, Chris. The next one is from Andrew Sutton. If we need more cash for the building, could we look to invite another esteemed and related institution to join us, e.g. IET? And we did look at the option to merge with IET on several occasions over the past 30 or so years. And the members have always said, no, we don't want to do that. The reality is, if we are able to refurbish our building to the right standard, it may be possible to attract other institutions to come into our building who don't have a building of their own. In fact, we have the Institute of Marine Engineering, I think, already as tenants in our building. The next one is from Robert G. How come this process is taking so long? Members were first advised in October 2021 that the trustees had been looking at the future of the HQ for 18 months already. This would now be at least 6 years since the process has started. Surely that length of process is taking significant cost. Robert, Terry Spall and I looked at this back in 2012 and put a proposal forward. We've had 4 or 5 proposals since 2012 to get this forward, and none of them have been able to get over the line to get to a point where we've been able to take a decision. This time we're determined that we're going to get a member vote, and that we are going to be in a position where we get what is the best outcome we can for our institution. From Peter Vincent, do I understand that the next vote will be a simple yes/no on the programme board's preferred option, and that the decision on whether or not to dispose of any part of the building will already have been taken by the programme board? Peter, the answer to that is no, because if we go for a vote and the vote says that we want to sell all or part of the building, and the members vote against that, then the backstop is that we retain all of the building, and we have to find a way of refurbishing it and getting it back into its former glory. That's there is no preconceived outcome to this, but a no vote for any option means that we have to remain in the status quo. The next question from Simon Reeve. Given the amount of time IMechE has spent considering this topic and the various advice received, what is the board's view on when you now wish to conclude this process, finalise and execute the decision with members, and move on to spending board time on other more universal and to some members perhaps more important future of mechanical engineering topics? So like we've said before, Simon, we want to get to a vote in June, in the early summertime, and we're going to spend the next 2 months moving towards that decision and having a series of webinars that take you along with us to show you how we're moving towards that decision. Then from Christopher Silver, if the building at OBW is kept by the institution, is there going to be consultation with the members regarding the restoration of the building? Chris.
We have a heritage consultant already in place. There are there's no listings on the building. We have wonderful artifacts and objects, some of which we're required to display. So we will honour that commitment. But the real outcome is we would just be basically maintaining the current structure and replacing and upgrading and renewing the elements that were last done, probably some in the 80s, frankly. So that's that would be the plan and the costings to get us. Now, what we would be seeking to do is, if we retain the structure, we'd be looking to get it to EPC, Energy Performance Certification B, which will enable us to let the building to third parties and create additional income to our organisation. That obviously requires funding. It's not absolutely mandated, but we'd be it's the obvious route forward for us if indeed that's the preferred option. Clive,
thank you. The next question is from Michael Larkins. Decisions by committee is not best. Clearly 90% of the membership do not care about the HQ as they did not vote. Why not change the constitution to give management ability to make a decision and move on to other business like addressing the climate crisis? I think, Michael, we want to be a democratic organisation. We don't want to move away from being democratic. So I think it would be a retrograde step if we did something like that. And I don't know whether we'd even get a vote, because if we try to change the constitution, it still has to go to the members for a vote, and the same 12% of people will be the 12% that are voting on a changing constitution. For such a relatively simple decision to put to vote, the process now looks drawn out and expensive, with many advisors, lawyers and consultants involved. How much is the process going to cost? And that's an anonymous attendee.
And do you want me to answer that? Oh, yeah.
Chris.
Okay. I'll have a first stab, and then Alice can pick up. We've still got funding left from the original allocation. A number of our consultants are on fixed lump sum prices. So if we slip a bit, then it doesn't cost us anything extra. And we are basically looking to, in essence, try and get to a decision in June, whereas before we were looking at around about Easter. So a member vote in June would mean that we're able to proceed. The funding is finalised up to FBC, so final business case, and that would basically enable us to engage with the marketplace if the members decided that that was the right solution. So the volunteers are not incentivized, they're unpaid, and we've got a lot of volunteers on the sponsor board and the external the consultants. A lot of them have coming to the end of their commission. The architects are finished, the M&E engineers have finished, the building surveyors have finished, the structural engineers are still doing a bit of work for us because we found some problems. The transport consultants are doing a bit of work. The heritage consultants are still working for us. The agents are on a fixed lump sum price, but they will only be remunerated from a sale if that in fact is the case. And the rest of the consultants are either fixed or nearly finished. So we're in not a bad place, but obviously we've lost a couple of months, but you're not a million miles off our target. Back to you. Oh, Alice, I think you wanted to, did you want to?
I can be very direct in the interest of time. The original budget was 750,000. We are trying to carve the right path here between making sure that we get the right decision taken. We're acting on previous advice that in order to do that, we do need to draw on experts, on professional consultants. So we believe that it won't be money wasted. It will be money well spent in order to get us to the right decision for the institution.
Thank you. And I don't know who made the point because it was anonymous, but if you think this is an easy decision, I would invite you to come and share some of the meetings I'm having to chair on this topic.
And me as well, Clive.
The next question is from Kevin Blacktop. Will we vote yes, no on a single option, or will there be more than one option to choose from? There will be a single vote, yes or no, on a single option, and we will lead you through the process to get to that single option. We're not going to come, the next time you see us won't be with a single option. The next question is anonymous. Is it possible to discuss on the impact of overseas IMechE groups during the webinar, especially on the financial aspect? Those who are outside the UK might not in the voting and webinar, as they can't see how the decision affects their groups or their meetings. Well, I would say that I would disagree with that entirely. I have a letter from the Hong Kong branch that are passionate that we don't sell the building. So I don't think that that's a valid point. Is there a list of functions of the building so that any changes can review this list? That's from Michael Berry. I'm not sure I understand that question, so I'm going to pass it to Alice.
Yeah, I can just come in quickly and refer to the earlier answers around critical success factors. So in the evaluation of our preferred options, we take account of all the ways in which we use the building, and those are included in those critical success factors, which were included in the briefing pack sent to members at the back end of last year.
And just further on that one, Clive, if I may, we've done a survey of the accommodation space used, both for our committee meetings to support the institutional activities, how the members use the space, and how the staff use the space. And that's clearly showed that we've got substantial spare space available if indeed there is a refurbishment programme authorised, or it means that should we relocate, then we need a much smaller space, which would be modern layouts appropriate for us for the future. And so we've done that exercise. It was conducted by a subgroup for the sponsor board, led by a member of CLC, and it's been through council, and now we're using that as part of our brief for the design team. So we've dealt with the accommodation requirements for the institution and flexible working, because obviously after COVID, ways of working have changed vis-a-vis this seminar. Clive, back to you.
Thank you. So we've answered 57 questions so far, and we've got another 58 to go. So we need to be a bit more concise with our answers, I think, Chris, if we're going to get any lunch today. So the next one is from Chris Silver. How much was the cost of hiring all of these consultants? I understand that was a need to make a correct choice, but surely all of the funds spent on consultant could have been used to repair the building. So Chris, the total cost of the consultants is £750,000, which was a budget that was agreed before we kicked off the process. Karen Jackson, apologies if this has been communicated previously, but do the options include the potential to convert some of the building to overnight accommodation, similar to what the Royal Society of Medicine do in their HQ in Wimpole Street? And yes, Karen, one of the options is it possible to have a hotel type arrangement? And that is on the list, and we will bring that to you at one of the future webinars to show the options. Tim Adlam, do the future plans based on keeping or not keeping the building remain the same? What's next? So, Alice, future plans for the institution.
So what we're doing as part of this, of the current work to identify our preferred option, is to look at the impact on the business plans for the future operations of the institution. Of course, whatever we do, it needs to be financially sustainable, but at the moment we're working through those preferred options.
Thank you. Bob Went, what consideration is being given to the location of the current HG building versus alternatives, i.e. in central London versus elsewhere? Alice, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I can take that. So we have just recently established a group, a member-led group, looking at what our possibilities might be for a future HQ in London should the preferred option emerge to be sell all. But this is as part of our work to determine that preferred option.
Andrew Sutton has said the IOE&T is just an example. There may be better matches.
I can assure you that every single variant on our 17 options has been tried and tested somewhere in our PEI community. People have refurbished and restored, people have sold all and moved, people have left London, people have gone regionally and then come back in. So we are taking as much, advice, best practice, lessons learned from other sister PEIs as well.
Anonymous attendee, members outside London do not benefit from one Birdcage Walk. What steps are being taken to explore other options out with this building? What proportion of members voted to do this in the first poll? Alice?
So I think this would be referring to an indicative poll that took place towards the end of 2021. There were about 5 options, and members had a choice of voting in that. So those options included consolidating in one Birdcage Walk, funded by the sale of number 3 and 8 to 12 Old Queen Street. It included keeping everything, so no change. It included moving to a new location in London. It included moving to a new location elsewhere in the UK, and it included going fully virtual. From memory, the support for moving elsewhere in the UK was of order 20%. But we did not specify where that would be, and I suspect that that would be a further challenge in identifying the preferred location outside of London. Our feedback from members is that the reason that London is preferred is for ease of transport. The transport connections, both for UK members and internationally, make it much easier to convene.
Thank you. Gareth Thompson, can you please confirm why additional fundraising from members is needed? The 2023 accounts show that the institution carried forward £34 million. I think we've already discussed that one. Anonymous attendee, is there a budget for this process and will the cost be shared with members? It is taken away from funds that could support the future of Birdcage Walk. So the budget for the process is the number that we've said before, with the external consultants, £750,000. Then Gareth Jones, is there an option of working with the ICE next door? I think we've answered that question already. And then the next one needs to scroll up a little bit. The next one is from anonymous attendee. I fear that there will have to be a disproportionate number of London Home Counties members voting for keeping the building. Those that cannot regularly use the building are less likely to have strong opinions. I think any vote on keep leave needs to also contain information on the what next. Selling the building on the promise of setting up more regional hubs, for example, may lead to a higher sell vote than moving to an alternative London hub. I think that's an opinion. I don't think that there's anything that I can answer on that one, but thank you for that opinion. It is appreciated. Then the next question is from Wing Tang. We perceived market was most intelligent and would illuminate us what is desired the best, and our advisors have advised us no market would tell us so. We can only fall upon our collective wisdom in deciding our only offer to market. How may we be certain the right knowledge and skills in devising the option to the market? Chris, would you like to answer this in terms of the consultants we're using?
We've basically done the market testing, all of the appointments, including the expert property lawyers. They've all got international profiles and experience, and they're all, leading in their particular fields. So there's no reason to doubt their contribution. And as I said, that's all been based on market comparables, pricing. We've tested some of them because we haven't felt comfortable, and we've had other parties peer reviewing in those decisions, and we've had our development manager overseeing the whole process. So I think we have got the best advice we possibly can help us come to the shortlist, and then to be able to bring that forward for further consideration by internal governance and trustee board before coming to yourselves with that recommendation.
Thanks, Chris. The next question is from Andrew Strachan. Is there an opportunity to partner with other engineering institutions to make more efficient use of buildings and resources in London? And I think we have answered that question previously. That Alice has done quite a lot on that in the recent past to look at those options. The next question from Julian Taylor. I note the request for donations in a recent email. No problem with that, a great idea. However, is it possible to create donation service anonymously? Membership number required, of course, for transparency. Julian, if anybody wants to make a donation anonymously, that's great. We would not announce who has made any donations unless those people specifically asked that we would. An anonymous attendee. Asking members for 10 years fees in advance or for a lump sum is out of reach of most members, especially in the cost of living crisis. How is this approach in asking for donations determined? So we understand that a significant number of members will not be able to take up this option, but there are a number of our members who would be able to do this, who've already spoken to us and said that it's something that they would like to do. So there is no compulsion on anybody to do it. It is, if somebody wishes to donate, they can. If somebody wishes to pay their membership fees in advance, they can, but there is no requirement to do that. So, Boyana Agwu, is there a timeline for when we hope to have resolution for the preferred option? Surely you must have a time frame in mind. So yes, we do. We're looking for a series of webinars over the next couple of months and then go for a vote in June. Another anonymous attendee, I am guilty of not voting. I still not understand why it was important to vote when it appears to only be an information gathering exercise. How many votes will be required and which will be meaningful? How long will be the decision-making process take overall? So we would like you to vote when we get to the next vote, which will be on the preferred option or the recommended option. How many votes will be required is the minimum of 50, and that is all that we need. And how long will the decision-making process take overall? We're hoping to be able to go for the vote in June, and by the end of June we should have an answer that we can come back to everybody. Then from Trevor Bean, do we understand why there is so much vacant space when historically all spaces were required? What has changed over the years in use of the building? Alice.
So there's probably three parts to this answer. I think the first is, if you look back many, many years, it would have been like many other sectors, pools of typists and much more clerical work, and there wouldn't have been the reliance on, digital tools that we use today. I think the second part of the answer is the way in which we use space has changed. So there are some parts of the building which are still a myriad of tiny offices. There are other places that are open plan, allowing much more efficient use of space. And the third part of the answer is we now have fewer tenants than we have done in recent years, and that is due to the deteriorating condition of the building. So particularly at the back of the building in 8 to 12 Old Queen Street, we're really no longer able to use a vast proportion of that building because it is subsiding and in quite poor condition.
Thanks, Alice. Whilst we are wanting to go to market with one option, are these unsolicited proposals a way of adding confidence to the options under consideration as we build to this one option? Chris?
Not really. I think they're just trying to get an inside track, so we've parked them. It does demonstrate, which we know already, it's a prime location. It's prestigious and there will be a lot of interest in this. How they would want to use it, we don't know, but that will be something that we will take to the market only if we have approval.
Thank you. The anonymous attendee, the IET previously refurbished Savoy Place. Can a similar approach be taken? Already lessons learned, and we are talking to the IET. We have spoken to the IET and we do understand their process. People may recall the IET actually relocated into our building while their building was being refurbished. If that is our preferred option at the end to refurbish our building, it may well be that we have a quid pro quo with the IET. Graham Lesson, what is the current estimated of cost to bring the HQ up to the desired standard and over what time frame? Again, this is commercially sensitive information, Graham, so we're not able to give you that information, I'm afraid. Brian Walker, if we go to donations from members, would they be to the charity and hence qualify for gift aid? Alice.
The truth is we haven't looked into that detail yet. I suspect they would be to the charity, and I suspect they therefore would qualify for gift aid, but that is something that, should we move to that stage, we would make absolutely clear.
And next one is an anonymous attendee. No, it isn't. It's Mark Lewis. Are the option on being looked at over the longer term? By that I mean decisions taken now should look to find a solution that leave the institution on a sound financial footing for the next 30, 50 years. The institution is ultimately about the members, not the roof it sits under. And Mark, that's absolutely right. And the options analysis that we're going through is based on 30 years. So we're looking at a 30-year time frame for every one of the options. The next question is from Christopher Silva. Is the option of fundraising outside the membership being considered? This will raise the issues to the public and raise both more funds and raise the figure on the mechanical engineers. So yes, we are looking at that. That's the next phase, is to go first of all to the lottery fund, but also out into the wider public through engineering organisations, predominantly to see if they will sponsor rooms. We will also be talking to our honorary fellows to see if any of those would be prepared to make a significant investment in the building for the future.
And Clive, just to add to that, obviously we don't have a preferred option today, so we would need to derive that preferred option to fundraise against.
Correct, which is why we've not gone out wider than the membership at the moment. And the idea of the fundraising with the membership is we're asking not for you to commit any funding at this stage. We're only asking if you would be prepared to, if we decide to stay in the current headquarters building. So Sean King next. Why not go to vote now on whether the member base would prefer to stay at the current HQ location or relocate? This would give an early indication of the strength of feeling and may help to decide the best course of action now. Valuations of current cost of refurbs and cost to relocate could be estimated to support the vote if required. So I'm going to go that to you, Chris.
We've got all the valuations. We've got the market comparables. They're in the models. Every model's been modelled independently. I think we've got a robust outcome overlaid by the MFA scoring. Gives us a very clear picture of the financial and the qualitative aspect. So I think what we're bringing forward is something that is robust, and it will go through the internal governance checks through to trustee board. Clive.
Thank you. The next question is an anonymous question. The building and its contents hold significant historic importance due to the impact of mechanical engineering, particularly the Industrial Revolution. The building is located near Parliament should enable the IMechE to influence government policy effectively. My view is strategy should focus on securing and modernising the building to make it future-proof. Reframing the problem will drive the desired outcome. Here's the strategy. What needs to be done to achieve it? It seems like disposing of the building is already decided. And I'd just like to reassure you that disposing of the building is not already decided. There are a significant number of members who are on the trustee board who don't want to do that. A significant number of members on council who don't want to do that. We're going through a process, and the process will be transparent, and we will show you how we get to the final conclusion. The next question is from Ryan Lloyd. Despite the recent changes, which do happen, it sounds like there is a level of clarity on the steps remaining to get the institution to a decision. Is there a schedule for each of these steps? And is the team happy to publish this to the membership? I feel having this visibility would be beneficial for a number of reasons. So what we can do is to give you an outline plan of what's going on. And I think that will be part of the next seminar session that we have. Martin Johnson, spending a huge amount on consultants, options, and further delay also has consequences. Current estimates align with previous 3 working groups. Great, then let's go with this. Thanks, Martin. That's a good statement. The next is an anonymous attendee. Most of the membership will not have experience of the building or understand its importance. How will you overcome this to make sure a general vote on the subject is considering the correct information? Well, we're trying to hold these webinars that are open to all members who have an interest, and if we can get to wider membership, we will, and we're looking at other ways to get to the wider membership. The next one is from Adrian Mundin. How can we be sure that approaching the market in this way doesn't build a momentum to sell when this is not what we want to do? We have lots of commendable process consultants and their reports, but do we have a vision? So I think we do have a vision, but we're not trying to build momentum to sell the building. We're trying to build momentum to get to an option that is a credible option for the best outcome for our institution. And we need to go through the process. If we try to jump to conclusions, we'll probably jump to the wrong conclusion. The next one is from Sean Duggan. You have stated that soft valuations, history, heritage of the building will be included amongst the decision-making criteria for determining the best value terms. Can you explain how you will plan to include and combine the views of the membership in weighing these criteria for the proposed preferred option? Chris.
Our options analysis includes four main components. One is the financial analysis, which each model has gone through, and we've explained about the market comparables. The second is the MFA, multifactorial analysis, and that's been scored at a separate workshop by a group of people, and they evaluated the scoring against the metrics that were included in the strategic outline case, and that gave us a subjective component. The third was the risk analysis, which looked at the implementation and the delivery risk associated with those options. And the fourth is the affordability of those options, because as we've mentioned, every option has to have a sustainable sinking fund embedded within its profile over the 30 years. So all of those four come together into a matrix, and we are able to overlay the main components. The risk and affordability goes into the financial, The MFA goes alongside of that, and you can see how they all compare and plot it on a scale, which we will show you when we have our next set of seminars, so that you can clearly see the rankings of the options, such that it's transparent what are the shortlist candidates that the trustee board and colleagues will have to decide which is their preferred option.
Could I just follow up on that, please, Chris, from a member voice perspective? The divisions, groups, regions, international regions all feed into council. So there is a voice that way. If you don't have an affiliation through that route, then Ben and myself are perfectly willing to accept your thoughts and comments by email to our member addresses.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew. The next is an anonymous attendee. Is this the team that is putting together the options for the future of the HQ? So I'll answer that part of the question first. No, I'm not on the team that's putting together the options for the HQ. So this isn't the team. Is the team representative of the membership as a whole in terms of age and gender, as different ages and membership may well have different inputs into the options or scoring for the HQ future? So Chris, could you describe the membership team that is working on this?
Yeah, certainly. I'm a co-opted trustee, and I'm in the under-21 team, maybe. So I chair the board. Alice is representing the executive. We have Richard Lockett, who's the CLC secretary, and he represents and feeds into CLC into council. We have Alex Impey, who is an independent member, who is of his own development company, and he's in the closer to 21 than I am. And we have another colleague who is the deputy chair of the finance board. Those are the voting members of the sponsor board. We then have, in addition to that, we've got obviously Andrew is helping with the comms approach as a team effort there. And we also have the executive, we have a dedicated marketing team. And more importantly, we are able to engage through CLC, through Finance Board, through Audit and Risk, and through Stratcom, the wider groupings, such that we can ensure that we reflect their observations and comments into our way forward. More importantly, we have a very large component of young members on our working group that's going to look at the options for potential relocation. Now, we haven't started that yet. We don't want to start it until indeed we have gone through the final selections, but that will include members from the young member group so that we can reflect their input into the future decision making, if indeed that's the preferred option. We also have another trustee from on the board who is a young member and feeds back into the young members grouping. So we've tried to cover the whole raft of skills and expertise necessary to get a blend of that to speak with one voice. And it's been a lesson learned from previous working groups that we have to bring a consensus around a solution that's best for the institution. And if we do that, we'll hopefully be able to convince you that that's the right solution for us, and you'll vote for that solution. Hopefully, Clive, that's answered the question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next one is, should the membership not be part of the process of determining the preferred option, given it is only a financial decision? That's from you and Casey. And I think that Chris has answered that just by saying that, you know, this process is being led and managed by the membership, and it is the consultants who are there just in support. It's Kevin Blacktop it seems that we should have an actionable decision, 2 options, so that a no vote doesn't start the process again. I think we do have that. A no vote won't start the process again. A no vote will be definitive. The no vote will be a vote for no change, and a no vote will mean that we have to look at our fallback on how we refurbish the whole of the premises. The next question is from Tom Pinto. Have you considered the potential loss of members who cancel their membership as a project if they don't agree with the final decision? This obviously would impact on the institution's finances and no longer sustainability. And Tom, that is a really important factor, and one that we're taking on board, because when we talk about a financial decision, the final financial decision includes the impact on the members, on whether it is if we sell the building or if we don't sell the building. And therefore that has to be an integral part of what we're doing, and is an integral part of what we're doing. Graham Britton next. Please confirm that the second vote for a preferred option requires 67% majority. Yes, I can confirm that, Graham. Malcolm Howe, on the option to leave London a few decades ago, the IMechE moved to a town old school premises in Suffolk. That's correct, Bury St Edmunds, I believe. We moved part of the operation out to Bury St Edmunds. It was proved not to be successful for us, and all of that has subsequently moved back into the headquarters. We do still have some of our finance team working in the office in Sheffield, but generally we've found that keeping the people together is the best way forward. John Whiting, re-engagement. How many people are on this webinar? Well, right now, John, it's got down to 57, but it was up to close to 500 at the beginning. And our anticipation is we've got 3 of these webinars, each with a similar number of attendees. So we're expecting between 1,000 and 1,500 members will have engaged in these 3 webinars. The next one, have we thought as to where we might headquarters next if we sell? No, because we haven't got to that point in the decision-making process. That's further down the line once we've had a vote. Martin Johnson, given the low percentage of people voting and the complexity of the decision, number of professionals involved, will the vote be binding, particularly if a close vote? You've been elected or paid as the executive at some point. You just need to stand up and make a decision for the institution. 10 years, 3 working groups. Please move to a decision. Thanks, Martin. But the vote will be binding. If it's close and it's not 67%, it will be no change. Well, the vote will only result in a change if it is more than a 67% majority. Many members work in London and can travel to London for meetings. Getting to small towns in Suffolk is not so convenient. I agree entirely, Malcolm. And getting to small towns like Birmingham isn't that convenient either if you're flying in from overseas, particularly on long haul where there are no long haul flights. Christopher Silver, if the building at Birdcage Walk is kept by the institution, is there going to be a consultation with the members regarding the restoration? I think we've already answered that, Christopher. Andrew King just picked up on the one option to vote on. If the answer is no, what happens? Some definition of the no solution will surely also be necessary to work out if yes is the right answer. I think the answer, if it's a no vote, is that we remain in the premises in its entirety, and we have to work out how we refurbish those. Alice.
Yeah, I was just going to add, Clive, I think it depends on the preferred option. So what happens with the no vote depends on what the option that we're putting forward to members.
Yeah, the preferred vote might be not to move and to retain all the building. So, you know, just bear that in mind as well. We haven't come to the conclusion on what the answer is going to be. Tom Pinto, Thank you for your transparency in sharing this information in the series of webinars. This is a very contentious process. It can't have been easy, and I appreciate your efforts. Thanks, Tom. Mark Willis. When the time comes, it would be very interesting to calculate what a one-time payment from all the members would be to ensure the HQ remained at one birdcage walk. I think that number is around £500, Tom, Mark. Samuel Bajomo, it appears the preferred option or best outcome will involve a sale of some or all of the building, at which point we will be left with no assets. Will members be given a say in how the income from the sale is invested? If we're currently unable to adequately invest in our buildings, divisions and groups, it seems that the fundamental issue is that of revenue and income. Are there parallel discussions and working groups set up to ensure the financial future of the IMechE? And yes, there are absolutely parallel discussions working on the financial future of the IMechE, on how we make the institution sustainable within the income that we generate currently. And we've looked at a number of things, not least we've sold 2 of the trading companies that were not profit making in the long term. We have looking at other things that we can do along those lines. I can't disclose those at the moment, but hopefully within the course of the next seminar group, we will be able to come up with some of the other things and tell you some of the other things we've done once we've got surety on those points. If we end up retaining just number 1 birdcage walk, this is from Andrew Whitehouse, could it be self-sustaining, or will we have the same debate in 10, 20 years' time? No, we won't, because one of the things that we're determined to do is to set up a refurbishment fund. That means we never get to this position again, and we want to get that cast into our bylaws. Peter Waters, thanks for this today. On quorum, IEE had an exceptional meeting called due to low numbers. What is being proposed is fundamentally sensible and reflects what is going on in the London property market. We are engineers and can redistribute capital to follow our members. What do the young members think? I think that, Andrew, could you comment on the young member input?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Clive. We're also getting young member input, not only through the Ds, Gs and regions, but directly into council. The Council Leadership Committee, CLC, that's been referred to earlier, we're all out and about, and we've got our ear to the ground when we're amongst those DGs, or indeed, as I was personally last night with my local industry agnostic region.
Thanks, Andrew. The next question is from George Illingworth. Although there is only one option, is there the possibility that members might reject it? What happens then? So as we said before, if the members reject it, then we have a status quo and we continue where we are. An anonymous attendee, isn't the fact that 80% voted in the last vote to allow you to go to market, which has now been decided is the wrong approach, a demonstration that this process is not working? I'm not sure that I would say it's a demonstration that the process is not working. I think it would. We're all very, very angry that we have this change of opinion, that we've not been able to get to the market. So I want to follow this process. The team have put the process together. We've put our confidence in them to do that, and I think we should continue to follow it through. Alice?
Yeah, just to add to that, it was new information that emerged, and I think it was absolutely responsible that we changed the process in order to protect the interests of the institution. It is unfortunate, but I think the alternative would be far poorer. And what we can do is just to commit, as we are doing through these webinars, to keep the membership informed as we go through the process. We are breaking new ground. It's taken quite a while to get here.
The next question is from Julian Taylor. We recently received an email asking for donations over the next 5 years. Great idea and no problem. However, can we include an option for anonymous donation, obviously with a membership number for legal transparency, as many members? I'm self-employed and go year by year. And Julian, yes, we want this to be anonymous unless the individuals wish it to be known that they've made a donation. The next question is anonymous. Have you found an example of what other institution has done that gives a better idea of what could be done? Is the civil engineers building the best example of success? And I think we've answered that previously, that we're looking at what all of the other institutions have done, and we're looking to learn lessons from them as we go forward. Regarding funding from members, will the institution plan to increase the membership fee as part of this plan? That's from an anonymous attendee. We have no plans to increase the membership fees as part of this plan. We have to look at what the outcome of all of the options are, and then we have to see where we are in the future. It's not on the agenda at the minute to increase membership fees to support this plan. And then from Gareth Jones, the ICE have an open restaurant for the public which enhances the image of the institution and brings in income. I know of events held at Birdcage Walk who have then moved to the ICE building for lunch. Yeah, really irritating, isn't it, Gareth? It really winds me up that happens. And it is something that we have to address, in my opinion. Matt Garside, more of a statement than a question, but as the incoming president, I will be grateful for any and all support as we seek to drive this process through to a satisfactory conclusion. Thanks, Matt. Gareth Jones, better use and management of the building seems fundamental and appears to have been neglected over the years. And I thank you for that comment, Gareth. I don't think we have an answer to give to that. Again, from Gareth, 750,000 would have paid for a lot of repairs, which is a statement of fact. And then another one from Gareth, why London? It is no longer the centre of the universe. You will have your option, Gareth, to vote when we come with the options, with the option to vote. So we will leave it at that, I think, at this point. Kennedy Mars Mudokati. Apologies, this already been addressed. With the fundraising effort that began last week, is there a target amount that once reached would automatically halt the vote and secure the building's retention? Kennedy, there is no target. It would be a phenomenal amount of money that we would have to raise if we did that. Let's see where we get to. And I hope that we are able to get to a point where there isn't a need for a vote, but I doubt it very much. Robert Radley, only 12% of votage. What percentage watch the webinars? Alice, that's about 12% as well, isn't it?
Well, no, it's yet to be seen, isn't it? So if we just said, if we assume that we had 500 on this one and we'll have 500 on the others, that's about 1,500, which is of order 2.5% of the membership. It's that kind of an order.
And then there's people who watch it online afterwards, of course.
Yeah, exactly. But we haven't got those figures today. But it's probably, I would imagine it's probably less than 12%, but it gives you an order of magnitude for the people that are joining.
Yeah. And the next one from Kieran Platts, can you confirm the number of options being reviewed? 7 or 17? Just gone online to see 7, not 17, as mentioned earlier. Chris, it's 17, isn't it?
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is 17, Kieran.
It was in the members pack, Kieran, that the long list of options was I'm pretty sure included in there, and we worked on the modelling each one of those independently and cut it to 5, and we're now in the process of reviewing those shortlisted, testing them at sensitivities so that we can bring forward robust recommendations. And
then the next question is from Gareth Jones. does the team reflect the geographic nature of the membership? And I think we've got international members on the committee, on the team, haven't you, Chris? IMechE, I think, from Australia.
Ian's not on the committee as such. He's on the trustee board. So I think we've got one international representative on the group that's looking at property location, and I believe that's the chair of the international board. Am I right there, Alice?
Yeah, it's the chair of the young member international board. But
Okay.
we also, just for transparency, we have monthly meetings of the chairs of the operations board. That includes the chair of ISB as well. So there is that input coming from the international members.
And just to add to that, Alice, if I may, inputs from council by default include the international regions, and the council leadership committee does contain amongst its 6 members 2 from Australasia.
Thanks, Andrew. Again from Gareth. Is it south of England centric? Is his question. Well, Chris, you're from Switzerland, so you're definitely not from.
I've worked internationally for a large chunk of my career, from the Far East, the Middle East, to the Falklands, to the Caribbean, to the States. So I feel that I'm a bit worldly wise.
And actually, Chris, you actually missed the clarification on the previous question that the chair of the HQSB is an international member.
Yeah, exactly. So the next one, Malcolm Howe, what is the approximate value of a sinking fund that would be appropriate for IMechE?
And that depends entirely on the preferred option.
Yeah, it would depend on the preferred option. Yeah, good answer, Alice.
But typically you would put aside, I think it's, Chris, correct me, around about 5% of the overall value of the property for a long-term sinking fund.
I think the RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors, say between 1% and 4%. Depends really on how much rotating plant you've got in there, because that tends to have a limited lifespan rather than a building that would be maybe 50 years. M&E plant tends to be in the order of, I don't know, 15 to 20 years maximum. In fact, it's quite interesting. Sometimes it's really difficult to get spare parts after 10 years. They're obsolete. And therefore you go scurrying around, which Philip is doing now, to get new burners for the boilers. And he bought all the spare parts up that he possibly can, because I think we're down to, I think he had 8 burners, and I think has he got 4 left, I think. So it just gives you an idea of the practicalities of keeping a building going in this day and age of continued innovation and product development. Back to you, Clive. I know you've offered to let us computer print the parts.
Yeah.
3D printing.
Yeah. The next question is anonymous. We've got 2 questions left. Is there any engineering or professional institution in the UK or overseas that has ever faced the same situation as us in the past? Perhaps providing case studies on these experiences will give us insights on how their past decision affect their current situation, instead of the members keep speculating in the dark. Alice?
Yeah, we're talking to our sister PEIs all the time, and we're taking the benefit of their experience. Just earlier today, I've been in a meeting with the CEO at CIBSE. CIBSE have just recently relocated in London, and we've shared a lot of experiences, best practice along the way. So absolutely, we're taking advantage of learning from other organisations in a similar situation.
And the final question is anonymous attendee. I've got another one coming. If the next vote is not successful, are you planning on putting another option forward, and where does it end? No, if the vote is not successful, there will be no further voting, and the trustees will be given a clear mandate that they have to resolve the situation with the existing facility. And Malcolm Howe, send me the boiler spares list, see if I can assist. So, Chris, there you've got an option. Thanks, Malcolm, and thanks to everybody.
Can you email your address, Malcolm, and I'll get that to Philip, and he can send it to you. Appreciate your contribution. Thank you.
Thanks everybody for your contributions today. It's been a really successful opportunity to get things across. I want to thank the panel, and I want to thank the IMechE team, and thank you for your patience with us on pursuing this options. And I am sorry that we've had to come back with this change in process. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.